All right, and we're back. Yeah, that happens sometimes. It seems like the people aren't flushing in, and I'll go on my backup and look for us. And sometimes we're there, and sometimes we're not. More times we are, but today we were not. Let's see if we can start it and get put on the For You page, so the more people can see this great debate we're about to have between Mr. EK and Mr. W. All right, let's see. Get W back up, Mr. W. Where is he? How you doing today, EK?
I'm good. And yourself?
Man, no complaint. I saw you in the live earlier. Was that unplugged or something? I think that was it.
Yeah, it was unplugged. It's another guy that I mess with. But you see, I was pubbing. I was giving publicity to this debate coming up.
I heard you. I definitely appreciate it. I made sure I was all ears. I heard that come up. You know, I always like to come up and support people who support me. You know, so.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I am very appreciative that you come here and you lend your voice, and you got a good voice on certain things. I watched some of your videos, and Mr. EK is in Chicago with the DNC. A lot of stuff going on up there. A lot of security, huh?
Yeah, man. They say it's the biggest one, but it's necessary with all of the different demonstrations they were talking about and what had just happened about a month and a half ago with our ex-president. So I don't begrudge them. Protect them at all costs.
Need anything to happen. I saw where I put up a video of them people breaking down the barrier, and peaceful protest is always the way. Peaceful.
Absolutely.
Mr. W, where you at, Mr. W? Where's he at? I don't see him. Mr. W. Let's see. Get him back up here. 1 second. Who else we got? Okay, so we got one live mic, fact checker. Charles is he's a judge, and we got another judge coming as well. There's Mr. W. Mr. One Live Mic, can you check on that other judge for me? One Live.
W.
Yeah, I see him. One Live, can you check on the other judge?
Yeah, let me do that.
All right, cool. Appreciate you. All right, so we're going to start with an opening statement. Does anybody want to be magnanimous and say who should go first between the two gentlemen? Or I'll pick.
Are we going to do an opening statement on each segment or just a total?
No, just opening statement right now.
Okay. You can pick. You can flip a coin or just say a number between 1 and 10. And then,
Mr. W, pick a number between 1 and 10. It's in my head right now.
Doesn't matter. I'll yield to him if you want to, but
it's up to you. You gonna be magnanimous and yield to Mr. EK?
I'll yield to Mr. EK.
All right. Well, Mr. EK, the floor is yours.
Okay. So I'll start my and I'm assuming that this has to do with, since we haven't had Ms. Harris's economy, we're debating over Trump versus the Biden administration up until this point.
The general U.S. economy. Because she doesn't have anything, because she's never been in charge except for in California with the DA and the U.S. attorney. So the current status of the economy.
All right. So the current status of the economy, in my view, is terrible. It's bad. Biden oversaw the largest expansion in government since LBJ's Great Society. It began with the $1.9 trillion spending bill in March of 2021. In the name of COVID relief. It was called the American Rescue Plan. It was the biggest bill in the history of this country, even though the pandemic was all but over and the economy was recovering fast. This planted the seeds for the worst inflation in 40 years that hit 9.71% in June of 2022, which reduced real incomes of Americans by 20%. So I don't begrudge the spending that happened by Trump and even some of the spending that happened by Biden. But as Larry Summers said, who worked in both the Clinton and Obama administration and was the president of Harvard, he continually said that Biden's excessive spending would lead to inflation, which we did have and we do have. When Trump left office, inflation was 1.48%. It went all the way up to 9.1%, and it has dropped significantly down to a little over 3% now, around 2.9 or 3%. But if you do the numbers, 1.5 versus 3 is still double what Trump left office as. So he has been a disaster on the economy, no matter what anybody says, no matter what he says, he's been a disaster. And that's why people favor Trump overwhelmingly when it comes to the economy. And I'll land my plane on that statement there.
All right, awesome. Appreciate that. Mr. W, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, first of all, the economy is more than about the economy. It's also about the people. Basically, that's where we start at. That's why they opened Monday night at the DNC, We the People. That was the opening, We the People, and it's about the people. So the economy, it depends on the people. And if the people are not in good health or educated well or trained properly, then you're going to have a weak economy. So you want to talk about the economy in general and get into the details of that? Yes, we can do that later on. But right now, at this point, the economy is moving. It's moving forward. And if it continues to move under the Harris and Walz administration, then America will be doing fine, providing they stop Trump in November. And I'll land my plane, as you guys say.
All right, fantastic. I definitely appreciate it 100%. And we're going to jump right into it. And the first question is going to go, since EK started with an opening statement, we're going to give the first question to Mr. W. All right, Mr. W, which is for both, but Mr. W is going to be able to answer first. Is income inequality in the U.S. a threat to the economic stability, and should the government take more aggressive steps to address it?
Oh yes, that's obvious. Anytime you take money out of people's pocket, or let's put it this way, I can reformulate it. Anytime you expand the family or any individual's disposable income, it's going to help the economy because they're going to spend more money. That's obvious. And any program or anything that they can pass in Congress that will make that better will be fantastic. Now, I just came across something a couple of days ago, which somebody had mentioned to me, was minimum wage, for example. I mean, look how long it's been that way. However, Franklin Roosevelt had proposed a $12 to $15 minimum wage back when he was president, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court and got kicked back on a 5-4 decision. So that's very important that we do something which helps the people. If we do not have a strong economy, and the strong economy depends on not only people's health, but how happy they are, then we will not make progress.
All right. Mr. EK, would you like to rebut that?
You said, is income equality?
I'll read it again.
Okay, that'd be good.
Is income inequality in the U.S. a threat to the economic stability, and should the government take more aggressive steps to address it?
Okay, so the simple answer is no. I don't think it's a threat to the economic stability of the country. Whenever we have a capitalistic economy or society, there's going to be income inequality. It's not a zero-sum game. There's not a finite amount of money that can be generated in the economy, and there's no limit on how much a person could make as long as they have the drive and the discipline to do what they need to do to make the money that they want to make. I mean, the richest guy in the country, and indeed maybe in the world, is an immigrant from South Africa, Elon Musk. He came over here. He worked on, in Silicon Valley. I'm trying to remember some small, I don't know if it wasn't Cash App. It was PayPal. Yeah. He was one of the founding members of PayPal. He actually went broke. There's a 60-minute episode that you can look up on that. He basically went broke, started Tesla, and now he's one of the, if not one of the richest men in the world. So you can always make it. But again, we're not going to have the government intervening, trying to equalize income. That leads to socialism, which in turn leads to communism. And as we have seen, everywhere it's been tried in the world, it's failed. You're going to always have some people that make more money than the others. If your boss wasn't making more money than you, he wouldn't have the ability to hire you and give you the ability to make a living. Now, W said that Franklin Delano Roosevelt proposed a $12 to $14 minimum wage. I guess he was president in the 30s. I gotta imagine that the average wage was nowhere near $13, $12, or $14 in the 1930s. Yeah, let's
That's
find
coming
out.
at me as well.
Yeah, that sounds crazy to me. So that definitely needs to be fact checked. When I remember the minimum wage I'm 61 years old, and I remember the minimum wage being $3.25 when I first started working. So that was in the 70s. So if we're talking about in the 30s, 40 years before that, and you're talking about a $12 to $14 minimum wage, it should have been struck down. That's crazy. That makes no sense to me. But anyway, you're going to fact check it, and I'll land my plane there.
All right, Mr. W, do you have a rebuttal? Give me 30 seconds.
Yes, I have a short rebuttal. First of all, which is kind of funny, the country doesn't just operate on the premises that a few people can get rich and 50% of the population suffer. The people themselves, they generate every product and service in this country. They also provide the services, and they also buy the services, products and goods, and use the services. If the people stop, nothing happens in the economy. They deserve a fair share of this economy. That's my rebuttal.
All right, we're going to give EK 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, so again, I think it all boils down to definitions and what do you consider a fair share. You're going to always, as I said earlier, have haves and have-nots. We don't have people that are not actually really dying on the streets. Luckily in our country, we have a safe safety net. So we have a partial socialistic society, Social Security. It's actually in the term Social Security. We have SNAP, supplemental nutrition, food stamps, basically. We have that. We have Medicaid and Medicare. We have safety nets to catch people who fall between the cracks. If you go to some other foreign countries, people are dying in the streets. We have universal free education from K through 12. Other schools, other countries, you do not have that. So the fact is, you can make it in this society if you work hard. You can make it even if you don't work hard. You walk down the street on some of these major cities and you'll see homeless people with smartphones. You know what I'm saying? You'll see people with tents that got generators and got air conditionings in their tents. These are homeless people who are not making any money. So again, the definition of what you think is fair share is where I think we differ. And I'll land my plane there.
All right, so we got on that under what Mr. W said. I'm going to read it. In 33, FDR administration developed the National Industrial Recovery Act, NRA, as part of the New Deal program. The NRA included a president re-employment agreement that allowed Roosevelt to set a weekly minimum wage of $12 to $15 for employees who signed the agreement. In exchange, employees agreed to a 35 to 40-hour work week and not to hire workers under the age of 16 years old. Over 2.3 employers signed the agreement, covering 16.3 employees. Employers who signed were given a blue eagle to display over the motto, "We do our part," and were encouraged to buy from other Blue Eagle businesses. The Roosevelt administration's goal was to help the country recover. Okay, so it's 12, I guess, what it says, an agreement that would allow Roosevelt to set a weekly minimum wage of $12 to $15 for employees who signed the agreement. So I guess that is true, but I think the way that Mr. W stated it was not. Does that make sense? Because I don't think he was.
Yeah, he said $12 to $14 an hour, not a week.
I was thinking an hour. So Mr. W's right, but the way he framed it was wrong. It's 12 to 15 per week, and
which is 40 hours.
Right. For 35 to 40 hours, you would make $12 to $15 a week and 33. All right.
Okay. I apologize. Possibility I misspoke on that.
No apology necessary.
You know, but what I'm saying is he was trying to raise the wages back then.
Right. That was the
That's
overwhelming
that's the
theme.
point.
That was the overwhelming theme, and I think we all got it. And we appreciate you bringing it up because I did not know that about FDR. So thank you. I learned on this show just like everybody else. Believe me, I do. Okay, next question. Should the U.S. increase the federal minimum wage? And if so, what should the new minimum be? We'll start with Mr. EK.
No, I don't think it should because again, is my thing is the minimum wage. Well, there's a couple of reasons why it should not increase it at this point, in my view. And I know I'm probably going to be in the minority with this view. I don't think there should be a minimum wage, quite frankly. I think that if you want to work, if you are going to work, an employer should be able to decide what they want to pay you, and you have the ability to say, I'm not going to work for that amount. If it gets too low, then you will just continue to do what many people have been doing, which is to be on welfare. The government should not have his hand on telling me what they think a person should be worth. We get these crazy stuff like what's going on in California where they're paying people who work at McDonald's, 14 and 15-year-old high school students, $20 an hour to fry fries. And that's why a Happy Meal now is very expensive. It's nowhere near what it used to be in California. So no, I don't think that they should be in my business, my private business, telling me what I should pay somebody. Now, as far as, labor laws, as far as age and OSHA and all of that kind of stuff, I'm with that. But how you gonna tell me what my labor should be worth to me? If I'm not paying enough, I won't get any employees or I won't get qualified employees to work for me. And I'll land my plane there.
Mr. W.
Yes. Wow. Minimum wage. It's been so low so long, and it doesn't work. And especially with this program that they implemented. I think it was in the 80s with this regular part-time with no benefits and this stuff for people. That's created a lot of hardship on people. And in fact, I know one or two of them myself. And one of them I have to help out sometimes because of that, specifically because of that. But here's the situation. First of all, it should be raised. And it should be a ways to equate at least a living standard, a minimum living standard. He said, he don't want to be forced to, or people shouldn't be forced to tell them what a person is worth. It's not about what a person is worth. It is about what America is worth and what that individual's contribution is to America. It's about that. It's about the whole country. It's not only about one or two or three or a pocket full of individuals. It is about the whole country as a whole. We are society. I mean, they keep kicking this word out, we are the United States of America. Then we got to practice it or leave it alone. And in this case, we're trying to practice it. We're trying to make sure that everybody in this country has the opportunity to pursue happiness and with a high probability achieve it because we want a happy country. I mean, one of the things I thought of since I spent some time in Europe was us moving up in the happy country of the world pose and compete with those European countries. And there's a couple other things, EK, you said about socialism. First of all, America has a lot of socialistic programs. There's no doubt about it. And that is for a reason. The family. Socialism is the foundation of a family.
All right.
And in Europe, they you look everywhere. They might call themselves social democracies, but if I listed some of the programs they have, you'd probably flip out. And I know this for a fact. Next thing, America should be at least in a position to have enough disposable capital to travel a little bit throughout the world and get educated internationally and learn things about other countries, other societies, other cultures, and so forth. That makes us all better. And I want to close with this. The world is not as big as we perceive it to be. A circumference of about 40,000 kilometers and about 24,000 miles. And from the Earth's surface to space is 100 kilometers, and that's about 60 miles. That's not really much space when you consider 70% of that is water. So we're fighting for more than just the United States. Of course, we want America, we're the lead. We got to set the example. And this is where we should be going. So minimum wage, yes, it should be raised to at least a minimum standard. And at that minimum standard, $20 is nothing. So basically, mathematical calculation, 50 should be at least. And I know it seems like a high number for people, but 50. If you calculate 50, you'll see how much a person can live off it, depending on how they arrange it. But that should be the least.
All right. Hey, 1 second, Mr. W. Let me do a real quick commercial. I hate to step on your steam right there, man. You seem like you're cooking. Real quick, man. Let's get those taps. Let's get the tapping. We got 5.1K likes in here. Let's get it up to 25K. We got 93 people in the room. Let's get the tapping. Tapping for the next 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Let's get the tapping and liking this page so we can get it on the FYP. I want to say what's going on to everybody on the panel and everybody in the comments. It's a great debate. I think we're gonna really get this moving. It's gonna be a great segment for the show, and I'm glad everybody's here. Remember, get the tapping. Let's keep tapping. Let's get those hearts up to 51 hearts. I mean, the stars, not the hearts, the stars. Let's get the stars up to 51, and let's get the hearts up to 20. We at 4 right now. Gift the panel, gift the host. All right? Y'all have a great day. I'm jumping back off.
I would like to respond.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. EK.
So a couple of things that W said that I'm going to vehemently disagree with. First of all, minimum wage was never meant to be a wage that would support a family. It was meant for entry-level people into the work environment, as I said, high school students and even maybe some college students, but it wasn't made or set up to be able to support a family of 4 going forward. That's the first thing. People come in an entry level, they start, and then they work their way up, and they're no longer making minimum wage. Also, when you raise the minimum wage, you end up raising every other wage associated with that. So you got somebody who's a fry jockey at McDonald's, the minimum wage is $20. Now, guess what? The assistant relief manager has to make more money. The assistant manager has to make more money. The manager has to make more money, and the general manager has to make more money. So it's a cascading effect. It's not just the people at the bottom that get the raise. Everybody in that chain has to get a raise. And that affects prices, that affects inflation. Another thing you said that, well, you think everybody should be able to make enough wage where they can take their family to Europe and on vacations and stuff. I agree, but I don't want to have to be the one paying for it. If you want to take your family to Europe, improve your social skills, your work skills, and your ability to earn more money. You have the ability to do that in this country. That's why we got 10 million illegals that have come into this country over the last 3.5 years, because they realize this is the land of milk and honey, and if you work hard, you can make it. And I'm gonna land my plane there.
All right. Okay, we have a segment here. It came in, a question came in. You can do that through a Cash App. You can pay $10 and you can get a question for the panel during the debate. And the question is about the minimum wage. The question is, should the minimum wage be adjusted based on the region of where that particular employee lives? I think what they're saying here, this is from Mr. Joseph, that in New York is different. Down in Florida, Tennessee, all 4 corners of these great United States. So should the minimum wage be adjusted depending on the region where the person is living to be able to do what they need to do? And I'll go ahead and throw that to Mr. W. That question is from Joseph. The audience can pay $10 and send me a question through a Cash App, and I'll get the question answered by the 2 gentlemen. Mr. W.
Yes, it should be adjusted. I mean, let's be honest. Let's look at how the people live. That is important. So it should be adjusted. That tells you that the people are not making enough money. Now, EK was talking about he didn't want to pay for it. Well, EK doesn't have to pay for it. I mean, that's what their employers are for. They make money. They spend money in different places if you know how business works. I mean, look, I know one company, a major international company, would write off gold, throw it in the trash, and wouldn't allow anybody to get it. So there's money there. That's not an excuse. The companies have to be more accountable and the people have to be paid more for their services and work. That's the bottom line. However, they come up with a system throughout the country to match it or to adjust to it, that's a different thing. But it should be done.
Mr.
So the
EK.
reason, the reason that I said, well, I don't want to have to pay for it is because you're experiencing it right now. I grew up in California. I live in Chicago, outside of Chicago. Every now and then I go back to California to visit some of my relatives, and I'm shocked at the prices of fast food, even though I probably shouldn't be eating it anyway. Somebody pointed it out. But the prices in California as compared to everywhere else in the country are astronomical. Again, you pay for it. You look at the price of a Big Mac in LA and compare it to somewhere in Nashville, you'll see the difference. We all end up paying for it in the end. If we raise the minimum wage, guess what? Everything else, as I pointed out earlier, goes up. Your rent's going to go up because people are making more money and they have the ability to pay more. Everything you buy goes up. It's not going to stay static. It is not going to stay static. It's going to increase because now people have more disposable income. Guess what? The prices go up. The cost of everything goes up. The cost of labor goes up. The cost of their end product goes up. So there's really no change there. Instead of trying to have the government even out the playing field, or not even the playing field, even out the outcome for everybody, that's the problem. And that leads to, as I said earlier, socialism and then to communism. And I'll stop there.
Mr. W, 30 seconds.
Yes, EK, we have two things in common I found out when you were speaking. First of all, I was born in California and grew up in Evanston, Illinois. I went to Evanston Township High School. You probably heard of it, right down the street from Northwestern University. And
right there on the lake. That's a nice area. Very nice area.
Okay. Anyway, you said that everything we buy will increase if the people got a minimum wage increase, if they come up with some type of increase. Yeah, if we let it go. But there are such things as tools that can be used like price freeze. And with math can find many ways to make systems work out. That's what we use math for. The thing is now is the math is being used against the people across the board, everywhere you look. You look at interest rates across the board. You look at any type of retirement penalties or plans or whatever across the board. The people are, in certain cases, are even limited from earning over a certain amount, depending on their situation and the source of their income. So, it can be remedied. There's no doubt about it, and math can do it. And next, final, there is enough capital available. The last I checked, which has been, I've been researching in a while, but the top 1% possess more than 34.2 trillion of the capital and wealth, and the top 20% control 80% of our total wealth. There's something wrong with that picture, EK. And I'll land my plane.
There's nothing wrong with that
30
picture.
seconds,
I'll
and
tell
we'll
you
work
what.
on your question, Mr. EK.
There's nothing wrong with that picture because that top 1%, if they're employing 10, 15,000 people that allow those people to make a living, there's nothing wrong with it. And as I stated at the beginning, this is not a zero-sum game. The pie is not finite. It keeps and continues to expand and expand and expand. There's unlimited supplies of wealth that can be created in this country, and everybody can enjoy it if they work hard.
All right. I think that's it. All right. We're going to go ahead.
I would like to add something to that.
Go ahead.
He was talking about, the top 1%, creating jobs for people. Yeah, that's true. But with that capital they're making, they could create a lot more jobs, and they could create a lot more higher paying jobs. And an example is a guy I know out in Seattle named Mark Price, the CEO of an online company. You can go and check his history, what he did in the last few years with his employees. At one point, he doubled their salary from $35,000 to $70,000 and cut his own because he was making millions. And that's what I had to say to that. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Here's the last question in the on the economy. I got two, and which one I should do. And I think that I'm going to do this one because this is a hot topic. Is the Federal Reserve's approach to controlling inflation through interest rate adjustments effective, or are alternative strategies? We'll go ahead with Mr. W.
Well, yes, it's effective one way and it's ineffective in another way. In the big picture, when economists look at it, yes, they look at the big numbers and they say, yeah, this is working. But for a normal individual on this, working individual, whatever, who may need money for some reason, he may not be able to afford it because of the interest rates. Or maybe, his credit score is not right, his or her credit score is not high enough, and, they can't get along with a low enough interest rate. That it may impact it. But overall, the big picture for the country itself, you can see it move through the behavior of the numbers. So it does have an impact on it. If it's the best possible thing at that time, only the future can tell us that.
Mr. EK?
I think this gets into some technical stuff that I'm not an expert on. I'm only a novice on the money supply that the Fed has and the interest rates. It has not been effective over the last 3.5 years because, as I stated earlier, the inflation rate is double what it was when Biden took office. Trump left it at 1.48 or 5, something like that, and it's now hovering at 3. So whatever they're doing, I think it's called quantitative easing or something like that. Again, don't quote me on that. I'm just trying to remember. They have not done a good job of easing inflation, and they do have the ability by controlling interest rates. Because when you have loose money like that, where money is cheap, when interest rates were down in the 2s and 3s or whatever, people took that money, they spent that money, they did capital improvements and so forth and so on. And that tended to, when you have a high demand and a low supply, that tends to raise prices and leads it to inflation. So if they do it correctly, it will ease inflation. And if they do it incorrectly, it will exacerbate the problem. And I'll land it there.
All right. Well, listen. Wow, a lot of information in that one. We had one fact check necessary. We ruled that was halfway. No full Pinocchio or anyone so far. And we're going to go to our next topic, which is the U.S. border. So the first question, and we're going to give this to Mr. EK. How should the U.S. balance national security concern with the need to protect the human rights of migrants at the southern border?
Yeah, so I don't think there's a balancing act that needs to be done. National security should always be preeminent. It should be the number one thing. And once we are sure that the national security is in fact secure, then we can start worrying about foreign civil rights on the border. So I always put the number one duty of the U.S. government is the protection of the U.S. citizens above all and everything else. And Mr. W knows this, being an ex-military man. So I'll land it there.
Mr. W.
Yes, the perimeter of the whole country, land and air, is important for national security. How we control it, or in other words, how we vet it, that's a different thing. For example, people like to talk about the border. Well, the border is really not hard to vet, but what's hard to vet is people coming through airports on visitors' visas, those that we don't really know what they're here for. And I don't have to get into any details. You can look at the history of the Russians and so forth and see what I'm talking about. That's more important than anything else, because once they can get inside the country and damage us from the inside, it is more destructive to us than it is from the outside, which means we don't have to be attacked with any type of military arsenal or anything like that. They can just attack us right from the inside if they can influence our society to behave a certain way and the way they want to. So national security is a broad subject and it has many segments. However, the whole thing is important, including the border all around, northern, on the shores, the airspace, our sea space, all that's important. I'll land my plane.
30 seconds. Rebuttal, Mr. EK?
Yeah, I think we both agree that it's important, but the initial question is how do we balance the national security with the civil rights or the human rights of people that want to enter this country because they are seeking asylum. And again, my point is there is no balancing. It's we make sure that that the security of the American cities is preeminent and everything else is secondary on that. So that's how I'm going to answer that question. There ain't no balancing. This ain't no justice where the scales are even. No, well, we got to make it even for their human rights and the defense of this country. Because if this country falls, none of them people gonna have a chance to come here and even be here. So the first thing we got to do is make sure that national security is the first and only thing we deal with. Once we are secure and in the belief that this country is secure, then we can address all the other world's issues.
Okay, I'm going to allow Mr. W, and then we'll move on to the next question.
Well, I agree with EK 100% because it's true. That is our number one priority. I mean, my job involved that. So I know that for a fact because everything we did every day was involved and connected to that. So that is a fact. However, human rights was still a part of it. We could not violate them. I have to underscore that portion because even if you're a soldier and you violate someone's human rights and you're caught, God helped you. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I want to go ahead and explain how it's going to, when we end, we have 2 judges right now. We're supposed to have 3, but that particular judge could not show up. So we have 7th Ward Hardhead and we have Mr. Charles. Those are the 2 judges we have, and they are actively listening, and they're going to make a determination at the end of the debate who they feel is the winner. We're also going to take a poll from the audience. Mr. One Live Mike is going to do that for us. And then if it comes down to a tie, then I will break the tie. I'll be like VP Harris in the Senate. I'll break the tie. All right. So just want to give us how things are going to go and like that. All right. Here we go. We're going to start this with Mr. EK. Should the U.S. prioritize building physical barriers at the southern border, or should it focus on alternative methods such as advanced technology and increased personnel?
I think I wouldn't pick one and exclude the other. I think it should be all of the above. And I'll tell you why. Because at my house, I got a physical door that's a strong door, but I also got a ring camera that picks up the stuff. So I have technology and I have a physical barrier. I think if you have a physical barrier, sometimes it will deter people from trying to cross that border as opposed to a wide open thing and then they getting picked off by a drone or some other sensors in the ground or whatever. A lot of people are just not going to try it because they think, how am I going to get over this 20 or 30-foot wall? I believe we should do both. I don't think we should have to pick one or the other.
Mr. W.
I think we have the technical capability that, a wall is, it wouldn't do anything. It would just, force them to figure out a way to get around and get over to something. I've seen walls before in Europe, Iron Curtain, Berlin Wall, and they eventually come down. So not a wall. We have high tech, and plus we have a space, an area, which we can control that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we can come 25 miles into land when it has something to do with like a person residence or whatever. Anyway, there are spaces. International borders have spaces. In some cases, it goes up to 100 miles. So we can control that. And with high tech, we can head off a lot of that. For example, if someone is crossing the border at a point, which is not necessarily the right point to be in process, then they can be picked up through high tech and someone could be there waiting for them. And the money that could be used could be hire more judges to process them, increase the undocumented caseload, or decrease the undocumented caseload, so we could cut down on that. And then also that would give us more time to vet the ones coming through, if we can catch them early coming across. Sure, we want to cut out the ones that have ill intentions, and The enemy, you can't underestimate the enemy. The enemy, if there's an avenue, they'll find it. And if this is an avenue where they could get somebody in the country, sure, they'll do it. So we have to be vigilant. But we also have to be very organized and make sure that we don't break any international laws. I yield.
All right, 30-second reply.
Yeah, Mr. W, are you watching the DNC? Have you watched that?
Yes, I have a little bit. What they
Did
show.
you see that they put a bunch of barriers up to keep the demonstrators from getting too close to the people, the stuff that's going on at the United Center in Chicago? These same very Democrats who say barriers don't work put a bunch of barriers up. What do you think about that?
Well, that's out of specific security reasons. And that concept works like this. We had it in Europe. I once worked in a place where we were like around many military installations and bases. But where we were located at, no one could get within a mile of that place. Not even military places, only the ones who worked there. And we had a fence around us and towers and all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's a form of security for a specific reason. And that security in Chicago is for a specific reason. America, people can travel all throughout the country. We don't know who has infiltrated any of those protesters or anything who have ill intentions or ill plans. The best way to eliminate a problem, if you can foresee it or foresee a possibility of one or the probability of one, is to try to eliminate it down to zero. And in this case, try to eliminate it down to zero. And that's why they put up the barriers.
All right, we got a question from the audience. $10. Remember, you can ask a question in live time to one of the participants. I think this is for you, Mr. W. It says, you said about a specific place for Chicago. That's why they have the barriers. Isn't the southern border a specific thing to protect the country? Why would you be against a fence or wall? Because that's a specific place, just like the United Center. The United States is a specific.
Well, first of all, in the United Center in Chicago, after Friday, that wall is coming down. If you're talking about building a wall on the southern border in the form of maybe like what they had in the Iron Curtain, history has already proven what happened to those type of walls. They don't last. So why invest into a wall when we have high tech and all other capabilities to control the borders? And in some places we do have short, miles of walls or fences or whatever, and deal with the border from that perspective instead of trying to invest tons of money in a wall just later on in the years for someone to tear it back down. Doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
All right, Mr. EK, would you like to rebut that?
Yeah, and I'll be quick with this. Mr. W, again, you stated when you were overseas in the military, you had sensitive bases that had all kinds of crazy high-tech stuff. But even with all that high-tech stuff, they still had barriers, walls, towers, probably gun towers, and a bunch of other stuff that prevented people from getting in if some way they defeated all the other high techs. Never mind just the visual sight of, I got a wall. You live in a nice house, I'm assuming. If you lived in that house and you had all kinds of sophisticated technology to prevent people from breaking in your house, you would still have a front door with a lock on it. You wouldn't have the entrance into your house, no matter how much high-tech stuff you had, you still would have a front door that presumably locks. And another thing, prisons have all kinds of high-tech stuff. They got walls. The reason for those walls is to keep people who don't belong from getting in and to keep people who need to stay in from getting out. So walls tend to work physically and psychologically.
In the sub-comparison form, that's correct. Like a house in a neighborhood, shopping malls or centers or whatever. But then the rest of the area is public. And public areas, number one, as you can see, they only put up walls based on protests or when it's necessary or construction or whatever. But international borders also have to take in consideration human rights. You always have to take that in consideration. Even if you're in the military, you got to take that in consideration. So therefore, we have to do everything possible, number one, to make it not appear, even though I don't like to use this term perception, that we're violating human rights. But in addition to that, not violate human rights in some way. Now, if we build a wall, I can tell you right now what the rest of the world is going to say. We went over there and helped them tear down the Iron Curtain and the Berlin Wall, and now we're going to build a wall on our southern border. I've heard it many times. And that damages our relationship, because then the first thing they say, oh, Americans are not real. They're fake. They don't practice what they preach. I mean, I've heard Europeans use that phrase, find it somewhere reading or something and use it on me. So it has more ramifications than just building the wall to keep immigrants from entering the United States.
So let me be just a quick response to that. First of all, I don't give a hoot what the rest of the world thinks. I worry about what's going on in my country. I'm not a world citizen. I'm a U.S. citizen. And secondly, you referred to the Berlin Wall. We both are old enough to remember when Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. The reason he said, the reason that wall was there in East Germany that separated East Germany from West Germany, it wasn't to keep people from coming in or going into East Germany. It was to keep the East Germans from getting out and going to West Germany. Our wall is not put up to keep Americans from escaping and going into Mexico. Our wall is put up to keep people from Mexico, Central and South America from illegally entering our country. So your analogy is false.
Well, I don't know what you take up from that analogy, but let me put it to you this way. First of all, when Reagan came over there and made that statement, many of those people had migrated out of the USSR anyway, down through Hungary, up through the border of southern Austria, Graz, the hometown of Schmittler and Schwarzenegger, and maybe some more. How I know this, I used to bump into them. I used to vacation down there in the Balatons. See, when it was really cheap, $1 could get you all kinds of stuff down there. In any case, I used to see them. That was way before Reagan got there. The economy was falling. They knew it was falling. They couldn't sell. Sales were going down, production was going down because people were leaving. Good people were leaving. Not just, normal people, people who had professions, engineers, doctors, lawyers. They were leaving. Now, you're talking about a wall is to keep people in. You're right. That's what the Iron Curtain was designed to do. It was designed to keep people in. And Berlin Wall was designed to keep people in West Berlin away from the people in East Berlin. The West Berlin Wall was round. It went around just West Berlin deep into Eastern Germany. And you had to drive to get from the Iron Curtain to Berlin like 100 miles on a transit autobahn. You couldn't pull over anywhere with an exception to gas up. And that was it. And then when you got to West Berlin, you checked in into West Berlin through a checkpoint. Now, both of those were made to keep people in with the exception of the West Berlin Wall, because we can move in and out of that one. You could fly in, you could fly out, you could drive in on that transit autobahn. But behind the Iron Curtain, those same people who also could walk up and touch the Berlin Wall from the east side could not leave. And they wanted that wall to come down because economically they were being harmed. Cars they were making had to wait like 10 years. And then they still would never pay for it. 2 cylinders, all kinds of stuff.
All right.
Ice was a thing that you wouldn't believe. I mean, when I went on the east side just for those 2 hours from Berlin, they wanted me to go in some restaurant and wanted me to pay an arm and a leg for some ice because on the normal streets and vendors, and they didn't have it. Now, I want to end with this.
Yes.
You want a wall and on the south border. My analysis and suspect of view is that that's emotional. It has nothing to do with overall national security or humanity or anything like that. That is something that is a talking point that you have grasped up from the right-wing side, and you're pushing it. I know this. I've seen it before. I've seen it many times. I've seen it way back in the day. I've seen it so many times, and they always have to point to some factor It's like they have a little board where they can take it and turn it to a point and say, okay, we're going to do the border this time. When the border is working, we'll keep using it. If it keeps working, we'll keep using it. Let's find something else, point to that. These are these talking points. They're not new to me. So based on the way the system is working and the way it's set up right now, all we have to do is improve it. There's no need to be expending capital to build a wall that will eventually, somewhere down the road, going to have to tear down or may tear down. Our society is also evolving. They might want to tear it down. And I'll land my plane.
All right, Mr. W, you think what EK is saying about the wall and trying to protect the U.S. southern border, you think that's emotional based on talking points from the right? Is that correct? I just want to make sure I frame it correctly.
Yes, it's an emotional talking point because it's an element they use to promote fear.
Okay. All right, cool. Mr. EK?
Yeah, I don't think it's a talking point, or I don't think it's emotional either, because you yourself, when I analogized your front door and you having all the technical wherewithal and wizardry to prevent people from coming in your house, you still would have your front door there and locked. You would have a barrier, a physical barrier that would make people think twice about just walking into your house and sitting down. So it's not emotional. You can couch it that way if you like, but it's not. We see it. We talked about the Berlin Wall. We talk about prison walls. We talk about the Democratic Convention. I've given example after example after example where physical barriers are effective to a certain extent. And remember, I started this conversation by saying I think we should use all of the above, all of the technology that we can acquire, but also use a physical barrier because, again, it has a psychological, not an emotional, a psychological effect. When somebody sees a 30-foot wall, it's like, oh, this shit ain't going to be as easy as just walking across the border or swimming across the river. So it's not emotional. It's psychological.
Okay. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, any questions you want to have put to the participants, go ahead and put it in the Cash App, and I'll make sure, as we had the two other questions, if there's a question that you'd like to have answered, go ahead and put $10 in and we'll get that question answered. All right, Mr. W, we'll give you an opportunity to rebut, and then we'll go to the next question.
Well, I'll give in the fact that physical walls work, but there's more than just building a physical wall to keep people from pursuing a life of happiness, as opposed to having a physical wall to secure your personal residence. Those are two different things on two different levels. In the United States, we're aware of the weapon system and the weapon counts. It's a different ball game when it comes to that kind of stuff, how you secure your personal property. However, if you've seen people from other countries who are seeking for happiness, and they're hard workers, and they're skilled, and they're humans just like you, 99.99% DNA compatible with you and every other human being on the planet, except for their skin color, hair, and eye color, and some other things. The same. They're human beings. And human beings need to be treated by Americans like human beings if we want to tell the rest of the world that what we practice is what we preach, and what we preach is what we practice. Sure, we're not perfect. We all know that we're not perfect, but we thrive in that direction. That's our goal. That's our mission, to set an example. As world leaders, it is imperative for us to set an example. And that area, which everyone else on this planet, I guarantee you can go to another country right now or talk to someone, and they would tell you that is a tool to use to generate hate. And hate is generated, of course, it comes as an emotion. That's what it is. Sure, I know you're not going to say that. I mean, I got it. But that's what it is. And I'll land my plane.
All right, great. So, okay, you want 30 seconds, EK? Go ahead, I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Please, thank you. Quickly, Mr. W, it is not hate to say that we cannot accept every person who wants to come into this country we cannot accept them all. Do you have a limit on what you, because I've never heard Trump say he's against legal immigration. My father was a legal immigrant who came 70 years ago to this country. No people on the right are against, or at least not, I shouldn't say no, but very few people on the right are against legal immigration. We're against illegal immigration. And my question to you, and I'll land my plane here, is what is your limit? 10 million people, 15 million, 20 million coming in 3.5 years. What's your limit of the number of people that we should allow into this country?
Go ahead, Mr. W. You can respond if you like.
Yes, first of all, we don't accept every immigrant. There are many immigrants who get turned back. You can check the stats. That's number one. Number two, as far as a number, how can that be controlled? That depends on other countries. If, for example, if in Venezuela and Nicaragua weren't controlled by dictatorships, maybe that would be a flow which would decrease because they have a different government. And other countries, maybe if the poverty level somehow changed where, people made more money. And some of these countries have very good educational systems, just they don't have the capital in some cases. If a lot of those factors change, then we may not need that many people coming in. Some people are going to come in anyway because they have other reasons. However, that number, you asking for a specific number? No, I'm not going to give you a specific number because I can't control that anyway, and I wouldn't know that, a specific number. Because
is there a limit? Do you have a limit at all? You don't have to give me 6,336,000, but is there some finite number where you say, no matter what, we can't take anymore, it's just too many people coming across the border?
Well, I'll tell you this. If 1.5 billion Chinese showed up on our borders, that would be a limit. Okay? That would definitely be a limit.
Say it again, Mr. W,
okay.
Because I got a call. Just as you were answering, can you say that again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. I got a call and I had to hang up on the call.
If 1.5 billion Chinese showed up on our southern border or northern border, yeah, that would be a limit.
All right, so your limit is 1.5 billion people.
No, I just said that to be, no, I don't have a specific limit.
I'm not being funny. That was a serious question. I wasn't saying it to be facetious. I'm trying to figure out where your mind is, and you went to some astronomical funny stuff. I'm serious.
Well,
do you have a number? Because it tells me
no,
your
I do not have
mindset.
a number. I'll tell you this. That is up to the administrators, Homeland Security, the executive branch. They deal with that kind of stuff. Me personally, if I had a number, it wouldn't matter anyway. I could say, hey, I don't want but 2 million. That's not going to change it. I could say I don't want but 3 million. That's not going to change it.
I didn't say it would change it. I'm just saying it would give me an idea.
No, I do not have a personal
is.
number. No, I do not have one.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I mean, do EK, do you have a number?
Yeah, I actually do have a number, and my number would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 people per week. So say maybe I would probably top it out. I shouldn't even say that. Probably around 100,000 per year. I'll tell you this, whatever number that could be processed in a relatively reasonable amount of time, because what Mr. W said is correct. Probably 80 to 85% of those people seeking asylum are rejected and have to be moved out of the country if you can find them, if they show up for their court case. The problem is there's so many of them coming across, we don't have the capability to process them in a timely manner. So they're sitting in this country illegally for 3, 4, 5 years. And by that time, they become vested, they're having kids, so forth and so on, and it just leads to more problems. So whatever number that can come in and be processed, say within a month, that's the number that should be allowed into this country. And then we can dedicate more resources to getting people in this country who overstayed their visas and processing people who are doing it the right way, coming in legally. We can denote a lot more resources to that. So that would be my number, whatever that number turns out to be, that can be processed within a reasonable period of time, say a month or two, to see a judge.
EK, you said basically what I said with different words. I said allow the Homeland Security and the executive branch, the guys with the responsibility to deal with that. And that means through the court systems and whatever they have to do. That's basically what I was saying. So we basically said the same thing there.
Okay, well, good. Then if that's the case, I didn't get that from you, but if you think we did, then we're on the same page.
We said the same thing. We said the same thing. But here's another thing. Have you've been out of the country before, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you as a civilian?
Yeah. I mean, that is, again, I got a lot of respect for you, W.
No, I wanted to ask you a question. I just want to ask you a question.
I've never served in the military.
When you come back in with your passport, they check you in, right?
Correct.
And at the airport, customs, they put like non-American citizens in one line, right?
I don't know.
And they put American citizen go through one line, and like someone who's coming in with business visas, they go through a different checkpoint to get into the country because they have to check their visas through customs. And they have certain questions they have to ask them. So that's basically the way it works. A lot of those people that come in, they go through that checkpoint and get through those checkpoints. When they come back through, there's no one checking them to see how long they stayed. So some of those people come in and set groundwork for companies and all kinds of businesses and instruments to make money, and then go back when they get ready, and no one checks them.
Yeah, they overstay their visas. I get it, and I'm totally against that. And as I pointed out, if we had more resources that we could dedicate to getting these people, because there are at least a number of people who should not be here because they've overstayed their work visas or their education visa, or whatever visa they came in on, they decided to just say, "Oh, I like it here. I'm finna stay here. Nobody's is policing me. Nobody's catching me. Nobody's knocking on my door saying y'all got to get out of here." We could give a lot more resources to addressing those people as well. I agree that too many people overstay their visas, and it's a major problem. But as long as we got 10 million people coming across the border, the southern border, in 3.5 years, saying Biden, thank you, Biden. I never saw anybody say thank you, Trump, that was coming across that border. It was always, oh, Biden, we love you, Biden. Biden t-shirts, this, that, and the other. So, and again, that is a policy that has led them to believe that we are welcoming them to come into this country that way as opposed to the legal way. So,
okay,
I want the people that overstayed their visas to get out, for sure.
All right, we got.
Well, EK, let me respond to that if I may. Mr. Denali.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, EK, we've always welcomed immigrants. Number
Legal
one.
immigrants.
There's no such thing as an illegal immigrant. It's undocumented. That's that law. That term illegal.
Okay.
That's that term doesn't make sense.
Undocumented. That's a new
documented.
term. That's a newfangled term that just came up because when I was growing up, when you were growing up, it was illegal aliens. It wasn't no undocumented migrants. None of that nonsense. So don't tell me that there's no such thing.
Well, people always say
for 30, 40 years.
EK, people always say certain things about official terms and written in bills and so forth. They use different terms like in law and so forth. That's all I was saying. But what I want to point to,
language.
Yeah, what I want to point to was this: undocumented immigrants also bring money. I mean, not as far as maybe bringing cash or whatever, but they generate capital here in the United States to the tune of.
We don't want to go. Listen, Mr.
97 billion.
We don't want to go there. No, because we're gonna do some fact checking here. The
cost
of illegal
97.
immigration.
May I finish, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
To the tune of 97 billion, I think in maybe 2022, and on the average of 36 to 68 billion or something like that per year. And they don't get anything back. They do not get a tax return where they get money back when they file their taxes. Okay. So what I'm saying is there's an upside.
No, there's not.
Not everything is the downside. There's an upside. Now, 97 billion, I mean, you could check it out and see maybe the number went up or went down, whatever it was, because this is a new year now. This is 223. I don't know what it is for 223. But anyway, you could check it out. That's the upside. Now, hey, you have an option there. You want to keep that income out of the economy? Or You want to decrease it, or what do you want to do with that income? Or you want to keep the system working the way it is, vetting, getting the bad apples out, letting the ones in who qualify and who can depend themselves, because sometimes in some certain cases you have to have a certain amount of capital to back you up to get a visa, like some of those green card visas or whatever. You have to have
Those are
either a sponsor
legal.
or somebody
Those are
back you up.
legal. That's not illegal. You're conflating
Let me
legal
finish.
immigration with
Let me
illegal
finish.
immigration.
I'll let through that. May I finish, please?
Yes.
Let's get back to the point. They have an upside, and that upside is they bring capital to the economy.
Are you done?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
You're wrong. And I'll tell you why you're wrong. And it can be fact checked. When you start conflating, you said immigrants have a positive.
Undocumented immigrants.
No, they don't. They don't. They just do
I
not.
didn't say they had a positive net, so don't twist my words. I said they bring in. They paid to roughly, I think in 2022, 97 point some billion dollars into that. And on the average,
much
it
do
has
they
been
cost?
reported. It has been reported. Hold on. It has been reported that they bring in on the average from 38 billion to 68 billion a year. Now, how much do they cost? That's a different question. But yeah, you got to check that first.
But that's the most important question, because if they cost more than they bring in, it's a net loss.
Well, you got to check that number out and see, because
I
I'm
know the number. I'm looking at it right now.
What is it? What did it
It's
cost more? It cost less?
$150.7 billion in counting. The cost of the border
Hold on,
crisis.
let me see something.
It's the House Budget Committee. You can look it up.
I didn't say they didn't cost more. I said they pay into it.
Well, it don't matter. If it's a net loss, what's the point?
Yes, it does, because long term matters.
It's a long-term net loss. It's not going to get better if it's 2 or 3 years or 10 years.
Look, if they're costing money in the beginning to establish a life, after a while they become independent, so they don't need whatever that is.
It's more than just the beginning. It's public schools. It's hospitals. It's all kinds of other things that go on that a citizen ends up using social services that are associated. Look at all the money that New York and Chicago and LA are paying for these immigrants. Money that should be going to US citizens. Why do you think people are so upset about it? If it was a net positive, you think those mayors would be complaining if all of these immigrants or asylum seekers were making money for those cities? I don't think so.
Okay, let's get back to the point where we are. Don't try to take me down rabbit holes, brother. we were talking about what they actually pay into the system and how it impacts the economy and the country as a whole over a long-term future. Period. Okay, because that's what the point is. If they come in the country and they stay in for a while and they eventually become legal immigrants, then they're going to stay into the country. If they're undocumented, if they stay, whatever their court case come, and they're paying into the system and they're working, and many of them do. I don't know if I'm not going to get up here and say all of them do, because I can't, know that. However, I do know many of them do, because I see them. I know some of them. I talk to some of them. So they do work and pay into the system. Now, the thing is how they're going to impact America in the future. Right now, at this point, everybody's upset about a lot of stuff like this, the money flow and so forth. But those, again, to me, are only talking points to generate hate. That's all it is, to try to dig up something, to turn it into, hey, these people, they're harming us. They're costing us this much, or they're committing crimes, or, all this kind of stuff. And that's, crimes, that's a different subject. However, they are also, over history, proven fact, immigrants contribute to this country and built this country.
All right. Here is the next question. That was okay. EK was called emotional and everything like that. Wow. What is the most effective and humane approach to managing the influx of asylum seekers and immigrants at the southern border? What is the most effective and humane approach to managing the influx of asylum seekers and immigrants at the southern border? Mr. EK.
Tell them don't come unless you have a legitimate asylum claim. As we pointed out, 85 to 90% of them do not have a legit asylum claim and will be turned back. So I like the policy of remain in Mexico that Trump had, and people mistakenly said that it was struck down by the courts. It was not struck down by the courts. The Biden administration decided not to do it. It was a deal that was worked out between Trump and the Mexican government to have them set there. Some of those staying there was not humane, but also on our side of the border, when they were, if you remember the pictures of them camping under the bridges and stuff, wasn't too humane either. But if in fact that they're coming here strictly for economic purposes and not because they're being, they're having problems in their country as far as civil rights and stuff like that, they're not being persecuted in those countries. They're only coming here for financial reasons, which is probably 85 to 90% of the people, as evidenced by those who are approved and denied for asylum. Those people, if they knew they were going to have to be sitting in squalor in Mexico waiting a year, 2 or 3 to get their case adjudicated, they may not make that trip. So sometimes you got to use tough love on these people to keep them from coming to our country with these bogus claims.
Mr. W.
He's concerned about the bogus claims. Most of those bogus claims probably get picked up fairly early, from what I understand. It's the claims that they can't clarify that the ones that get deep into the court system. Some of those claims, they are held, and within a short period of time, they'll turn around anyway. As you're talking about coming here for economical purposes, man, that's what the whole world works on, economical purposes. That's what we're doing. The United States, we want to sell our products abroad in other countries. And if it were up to us, and if we could get it to where we want it, we'd have every economy in the world in a position to be able to buy some of our products, or many of them. So economics is always a thing. So every human being is always looking for some way to make his or her life better. And economically, in today's world, is the way it goes. So what I'm hearing from you is you fought in these people for looking for a better way of life by coming across our border into the United States, where me as a soldier, and I'm not sure if you're a vet, maybe you should know this if you're a vet, where we was telling the world that we stand for freedom for everybody. For everybody. And that United States, hey, that was it. That's what we promoted.
Yeah, and that's a problem.
So now, I know, and now we got people coming in, and we got, not everybody, but a segment of our population complaining about it.
So I'm not a vet. I don't want to do any stolen valor here. I wish, I was just in between Vietnam and the stuff that was going on in the Middle East. So I missed that. It's one of my regrets that I didn't serve my country. But as far as me putting these people down for wanting a better life, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, if I was in their position, I would do the same thing. But it's not on me to accept that. It's on me to say, you can come in, you can't come in. You can come in because your government's going to kill you because unalive you because you're going against the existing government there. But you can't come in because you want to have a better life for your family. That's the difference. Again, if it was me and my family was there, I would be trying to do the same thing. But it's incumbent on the U.S. to say, no, you do not qualify just because you want to have a better economic life for your family. We cannot take all the world's poor people. We are the most powerful country, military, economically, everywhere in the world, and everybody wants to come here. So we cannot have these gates open and just because somebody wants a better life, they come in. The people I want coming into this country are people that are going to improve this country, not degrade the country, not take my taxpayer dollars. They could have stayed where they were at as far as I'm concerned. I got a big heart. As I told you, my father was an immigrant, but he did it the legal way. It took him 8 years to get over here legally. And if it wasn't for the immigration policy, I wouldn't be here. So I am a big advocate of legal immigration. You guys tend to get those things confused and conflated and think that we don't want no immigrants. We are a country of immigrants, but we're a country of mostly legal immigrants.
All right, I want to read this right quick. The CBO estimates that the immigration surge will add 1.2 trillion in federal revenues over the 2024, the 10-year period, 2024 to 2034. The annual increases in revenue grows over time and reaches 167 billion, or 2.2% of the total revenues in 2034, the agency's projection. CBO Congressional Budget Office.
Yeah, but it doesn't tell you what the cost associated. It just shows how much they add. It doesn't say how much they take.
Right.
That's the problem with that stat.
Yeah.
Who said right? Tasha?
Yeah. Tisha.
Tasha, hang on. This
No,
is
it's not Tasha. It's Tisha.
excuse me, Tisha. This is a debate between Mr. EK and Mr. W at the moment.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
you're fine. I just wanted to tell you because I let you up, so I just wanted to let you know. It's not, it's not open mic at the moment. It's going to be here in a second, but just give us a minute, okay? Tasha, I won't forget that. Right. So we'll look for what it costs over that same 10-year period, what the estimations are. That's what the CBO said they will bring to the economy, 1.2 trillion, and it'll be 2.2% of total revenue by 2034. We'll see what
And one other thing, and I might have missed this, Mr. Denali, I'm sure you said it. Can you read that again from the beginning? Did it say illegal immigration or immigration?
No. Okay. CBO estimates that the immigration surge will add 1.2 trillion in federal revenues over the 24 to 34 growth period. The annual increases in revenue grows over time and reaches 167 billion, or 2.2% of the total revenues in 2024, the agency's projection. So it says immigration. It doesn't distinguish between undocumented and documented.
Gotcha. So it could be both, or it could be just,
I
we don't
imagine,
know.
because I think when I read the whole article with the CBO, it said most of that is coming from legal immigration, documented.
Okay,
From what I remember on the whole report when I read it. Okay.
gotcha.
I think that's it. We're going to go ahead and move to our final.
Mr. Denali?
Yes,
Let
sir.
me add something to what EK said a few minutes ago.
Sure,
Before
go
you
right ahead.
please. Okay, first of all, he made the statement that everybody want to come here to the U.S. Hey, brother, that's definitely not true. I know Americans have lived in Europe so long, they don't want to come back, some of them. And to boot, I got kids in Europe and they won't live in the States. They come here vacation, guess what? They get the hell out of here then. So not everybody want to come here. There are certain people want to come here. Not everybody. I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
I got a fact check real quick.
Okay.
The asylum claims in the United States for the denial rates. You said 85 to 95. EK is 73% in 2020. 26% were granted. 73% were denied. Biden administration denied 63% and admitted or granted between 29 and 37%. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. One live mic.
All right. So thank you, Sherry, for your Cash App. I appreciate it. There's no question attached, but you did send in the Cash App. Remember, folks, that's the way that you can support the show is through Cash App. Liking the live, that is the minimum. You can like the live. Also, you can gift. I have the duck up there. It's been on my head for the last 10 days. I've been trying to unalive that duck so I can eat my duck for dinner. Oh, there it is. The duck is back. I've been trying to get that duck, but I can't catch him. He's very tough, very tough. And then you can also do into the Cash App, okay? So we're going to move now to our final topic, which is going to be the the Israel and Gaza situation, the conflict that seemed like it's been going on forever. We're going to go to that. And the first question is going to be to Mr. W. All right. Is a two-state solution still a viable path to peace between Israel and Palestine, or should alternative solutions be considered?
A two-state solution at this point appears to be the only viable option because that conflict has been going on before I was a young soldier. And Netanyahu has been in and out since then. Right now, he holds 64 seats in the Knesset, and but he makes up of three coalitions. So, and one of them is a Christian wing. And if some of those parties would break off, then they could stop the war because those are the ones who are actually are pushing it. They're backing him up. That's why he's still in power. So, two-state solution, that's the only apparent way to do it right now because everything else, it appears that they have tried up until now, and history has shown what we've gotten.
Mr. EK?
So I'm not an expert on this, so I'm going to defer a lot to Mr. W. I just have a cursory knowledge of this conflict. I know it's been going on for 80 years now, sometime in the early 40s. I don't know, was it 46 or whatever when Israel became a state? What I will say is I know that, and this can be fact checked and correct me if I'm wrong, that Israel had offered, I believe during the Clinton administration, a two-state solution, and it was the Camp David Accords, I think it was called, and Arafat was leading the PLO at the time.
Correct.
And they thought they had a deal, and when it came time to sign the thing, I think it was him, Arafat, and
Was it Sharon?
I think it was him. Was it him or was it Begin? I'm not sure. One of the Israeli leaders at the time, Arafat decided not to for a two-state solution. And it's been a couple of different times. Again, I'm not an expert on this. I'm really kind of, I'm in the middle here on how it's going to go. I will say this. Honest people really think about this thought experiment. If Israel tomorrow decided to lay down all their arms and said that they weren't going to defend themselves against the Palestinians, what would happen? And then reverse that. If the Palestinians laid down their arms and said, we're no longer going to commit acts of violence against the Israelis, which one of those scenarios is most likely to lead to peace? And I'll land my plane there.
Is that for me to answer, EK?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
it was more of a statement, but yeah, you can definitely answer that. Specifically answer that question. Don't go off onto a tangent if you want to answer that question. That question,
I'm going to answer that question.
Scenario.
Hey, I will answer that question. Okay? You relax. I will answer the question. I need time to contemplate it, to think about the question itself. Now, yes, sir.
Let me just drop real quick. Sorry about that. I put a poll up, guys. Go ahead and look up there at the top. I can add more time to it, but go ahead and tell us who you think is making ground on this poll, on this debate. Simple poll right up the top. All right, go ahead, W.
Okay. That Middle East situation has always been difficult. It really is. Now, you asked me about the weapon systems, who should get what weapons. One thing I've learned is this. Doesn't really matter. They figure out how to conduct, conflicts and war anyway. They're going to get the weapon systems.
You misunderstood my question, W. I didn't ask about weapon systems. What I said is if Israel tomorrow said we're going to lay down our weapons and no longer defend our territory, and the Palestinians and Hamas and Hezbollah and the PLO and the other groups that are associated with the Palestinians said they were going to lay down their arms and would no longer conduct hostile activities against Israel, which one of those scenarios is more likely to lead to peace?
Well,
So
that's
if
what
the
I was.
Israelis said they're not going to, well, then you talked about gaining
No, I was.
arms and
Let
all
me
that
finish.
stuff.
Be
Okay.
patient. Let me finish. I was leading into something because of weapon systems, wherever they get them from, and whoever. The one factor you don't understand about the Middle East, even though if all those countries decide to lay down their weapons, they still have to control those extreme terrorist groups. That's going to be a problem. That's always been a problem.
You know, the terrorist groups are laying down their arms. There's no need to control them if they're not going to be aggressive against Israel.
Let me repeat what I said. I said extreme, the fringes. In all those groups, you got people who are extreme. Like in every society, you have the ones extreme left or extreme right, or however you may want to classify them. But they have them too. They had them in Europe. And those people, they act, and sometimes they go to the extent of violence. That's a factor, an element which has to be calculated into the equation when you're talking about all those countries laying down their weapons. However, it would obviously be a positive step and a big major step. There's no doubt about that. And it would be a good start because then you could really focus on those fringe groups if they would all do that. I mean, that's logic there. So the question is, what will happen from now? Like I earlier mentioned, hey, it's been going on for so long now. When this is over with, if we're alive, maybe we'll see another one. We don't know yet. But I know this, and this is a common denominator. Netanyahu has always been around. Okay? That's a common denominator there. Thank you.
All right, Mr. EK, you have one last, you have one broader, or you're good?
No, I'm good.
Okay, great. All right, so here's the second question in this segment. Can Hamas be considered a legitimate representation of the Palestinian people, and what impact does its governments have on the prospects for peace? Mr. W.
Well, that depends on the people. You know, they have elections too sometimes.
The last one, just for the last one, the Hamas came in was 2006.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, in that case, then it seems like to me, if their government is not operating the way they want to, the people have to make that change. Now, if Hamas, on the other side of the coin, decides to, become tyrant and decide to suppress them, that's a different ballgame. But the people have to, in the end, they still have to make that decision because, as I mentioned to EK earlier, those French groups, they come from those families. The young kids, the sons, the 18, the older guys in their 30s and so forth. And we know for a fact the families have much influence on them. Much influence on them. So that could be brought under control within that society itself. Now, if it's going to happen, that's another question.
Mr. EK, you have a rebuttal? I know you.
Yeah, can you repeat the question, please?
All right, here we go. Can Hamas be considered a legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, and what impact does its governance have on the prospects for peace?
So yeah, there've been polls that have been taken in Gaza, and I think the number is somewhere north of 70% of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip support Hamas. Hamas is recognized as an international T group by the United Nations. So if that's the case, I don't know what positives are going to come out of it as long as Hamas is representing the people of Gaza, given the fact that, like you said, there hasn't been an election since 2006. And even if there is an election based on those polls, they may win a legitimate election. So I think it's going to be tough until they decide to maybe not use terror as a way of getting what they want out of the situation. Again, I'm going to couch everything. I'm not an expert. I'm open to being proven wrong if I'm wrong, if some of the statements I'm making are not true. I'm not standing 10 toes down on this. This is kind of off the cuff, and I'm just kind of flying blind here. So people can definitely fact check me or educate me on this.
All right. Mr. W, you have anything?
Well, yes. I mean, the numbers, they're important, but the most important thing is how the inner society deal with their families, because some of those family members may be connected to Hamas, and if they are, that opens the door for something. Now, sure, Hamas has been controlling them for quite a long time, and that is definitely wrong. But the other option would be, it's how do you, if you want to use the term, free them from Hamas if that's the case. Well, what's going on now is definitely not going to necessarily free them, because it seems like it's unaliving more of them than it is anything else at this point. So therefore, there has to be some type of a plan, a surgical plan, somehow, to be able to shut down Hamas if Hamas is not willing to come to the table and talk open, legitimate peace and be willing to practice their actions. And that can be measured and checked. I mean, we've done it in the past before. It's just a matter of getting them to do it. And sometimes the language is a problem. And sometimes it's old blood. There's a lot of factors that play a role, but it can happen. And Hamas has to be brought under control so that no more of those T groups spin off. But they're not the only problem in that area. I mean, just stopping them is not the only case. However, they're important for that particular situation. Thank you.
All right, Mr. EK, would you like to rebut that? Otherwise, we'll go to the next question, and then that will be the final question, and then we'll have two closing statements, and then we'll find out who won.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't want to rebut it. I'm actually in agreement with Mr. W on that one.
Okay, great. All right, so here's the final question. The final question is, how should Israel balance its right to self-defense with the humanitarian concerns of civilian casualties in Gaza? Mr. W.
Well, sad to say this, but that's only one way you can do an operation like that. And those are what we call surgicals, because you have to get within the society. And it runs a risk. It runs a risk. There's no doubt about it. And you're going to have some soldiers unalived. There's no doubt about that. But if you don't want to have people's in that number, I mean, if you really don't want to have people in that number unalive, you can't continue the campaign that they're going through now. So therefore, the only other logical option I can think of is surgical. How we do surgical? I mean, there are many ways to do surgical. You know, we have ground troops, and we have also possibility of do air surgicals. There's all kinds of ways, but air surgicals is a little bit different, because guess what? You got to make sure you know what you're hitting. Whereas the ground surgeon, those guys, they don't necessarily always know what they're hitting, but they have a pretty good idea because they're on the ground, they're on location. And you need probably large numbers of those, and it would look like an invasion probably if they did that. And you can guarantee if Hamas saw that coming, they're going to start setting up some things. So there's, ups and downs of both sides. However, if this air campaign, needs to stop from unaliving so many people, then that's the only other option they have at this point, other than stop, of course.
All right, Mr. EK, how can they balance, in your opinion?
I don't know. So again, I'm not a military expert. I'm going to defer and just concur with what Mr. W said. I'm trusting his military expertise much more than my own. So I'm not just going to speak out of my ass. Mr. Denali, I don't know. I have no idea. It's got to be tough. I agree with what he said, that if you're going to have strikes, air strikes, they need to be surgical. I know he knows that they have pretty accurate munitions now that can actually target somebody traveling in a car and hit the back seat as opposed to the front seat. They're that sophisticated. And again, when you start doing house to house, when the enemy is hiding behind civilians, you're going to take a lot of casualties. So, I'm going to defer to what he said. I trust his expertise over mine. He served, I haven't. So,
Got it. Okay. I think that's the end. We what are we at right now? 3:39, 9 minutes over what we thought. Okay, good deal. I think we did a great job. I want to thank Mr. EK and Mr. W for participating. I'm going to give each one a closing statement. And Miss Seventh Ward Hardhead, is that her? Okay, she's back. She got kicked off, seems like, with the connection issue. So we'll go ahead, since EK gave the first, we're going to go to Miss W with an ending and end with EK. Go ahead, Mr. W.
Well, in a package, everything we talked about leads to one thing: the best interest of the people, not only in the United States, but also abroad, because it impacts us. What impacts us abroad impacts the people here. Trade deals are impacted. We generate T groups for danger. There are all kinds of possibilities. Most important thing that we as Americans know, using common sense, straight common sense, that we know the difference between right and wrong, and we know that we do what's best for America. That's what we have to do. That's our contribution. We do not have control of what's going on abroad. We may get a vote, and it may contribute to that, but we don't have any control of it at this point. However, no one wants to see that type of situation. No one wants to see those numbers. And to be honest with you, if you're a soldier, a combat soldier, that stuff almost more to make you cry thinking about it. So it's all about the people across the board here in the United States, the borders, economically, and who we vote for. It's all about the people. And I'll end it with that, because if it's not about the people, I mean, who else is it about? Thank you.
All right, Mr. EK.
yeah, so I'll going to touch on two quick points in my closing. The one we started with the economy. I think most reasonable people will say that the economy was much better under Trump before COVID hit. Inflation was 1.48%. Mortgage rates were in the low threes. Gas prices were $1 cheaper per gallon. And I know people will say that the president has very little effect on gas prices. I'll give you that. But the person in charge is the one that gets the credit or the blame. Mr.Denali says that all the time, and it's true. As far as immigration, according to the CBP, these 3.5 years that Biden has been in charge of the border, 10,351,846 people have attempted or crossed the border. During the 4-year reign of Trump, it was 3,495,000 people. So that's a difference of close to over 7 million people more have crossed the border under Biden's 3.5 years. The two most important things facing voters, the subjects, or the things that concern them the most, are the economy and inflation, and the border, I should say, the economy and the border. On those two notes, Trump wins hands down. So as people know, I'm a Trump supporter, and I'm hoping that people will vote their head, not their heart, vote on facts, not emotions. And if that's the case, we'll have Donald Trump for another 4 years.
Everybody in the chat.
And I'm going to land my plane there.
No problem, Mr. EK. If you go above my head, there's a little thing there. You can hit that to get the poll to pop up for you, and then you can take the poll. So if you see that thing above my head, it's directly above my head, tap that, the poll will open up, and then you will be able to give your opinion as far as who won in this particular one-on-one debate. The first one on Mr.DenalXXL, and I want to thank Mr. EK for being very prepared, and Mr. W for being prepared. And, listen, that's the way we talk about with healthy debate. Point, counterpoint. They mixed up a little bit, but they were respectful for one another, and each one was able to get their point out uninterrupted so that we both could hear their points. And I think that's very, very important. And that's what we're building over here, normalizing healthy debate. I love this segment. We're going to make some tweaks to it. This is the very first one. As I always say, we always learn more. Not saying this was a defeat, but when our first time, and then we'll be able to keep tweaking it and make it better, especially for the audience that comes here and enjoys the conversation, okay? At this point, what I'm going to do is I am going to, our guy, Mr. Charles, he's got a lot to say. He's chomping at the bit. I know he's been over there taking notes and listening, actively listening. So I want to turn it over to Mr. Charles, and then we'll turn it over to 7th Ward Hardhead, and then we'll see what we got. Mr. Charles, what say you?
I think it was a great debate from my standpoint. I'm gonna just judge it as strictly a debate because everybody, both sides had good points. As far as the minimum wage segment, when they spoke about, Mr. EK is more extreme with no minimum wage. The other gentleman, I'm sorry, Mr. W, he's saying, I think he said $50. Hold on, I'm sorry. Hey, okay. He said $50 minimum wage, but he didn't have nothing back up. At least EK has something to come with why he feel it shouldn't be and his reason why he feel it shouldn't be in the minimum wage. Which, I won't give my opinions on that. I'll discuss that after we talk towards the end on my opinions on those things. As far as the border, it seemed like it was more of a stalemate. EK came from I know some people look at EK as being heartless when you talk about the border, but life is reality, and you either on one side or the other. But you could be a human being, but also saying this is affecting me negative. So EK is coming from a more American standpoint, whereas I felt Big W came from like we should embrace all people in the world. And then as far as the Iraq, I'm aside a little bit, even though he didn't elaborate. EK gave in and said he don't really, understand everything about the Iraq thing. I'm aside a little bit, Mr. W, because the surgical thing that Mr. W is talking about is actually, in my opinion, is a better situation that should have been taken because Israel is the bigger power over Palestine. So to just carpet bomb, I think was, because you're creating more enemies than you're gonna have, because it's not just about the people you fighting. You killing a bunch of innocent people that's losing family members. They're gonna have a vendetta against you that has nothing to do with Hamas. As far as the what's the other thing? So that's Iraq. That was the border, minimum wage, the economy as a whole. I just think EK came with a little bit stronger on all points. My man, Mr. W, succeeded on the $12. We thought it was $12 to $15 an hour. It was $12 to $15 a week. But it wasn't even just that. It's the fact that when he mentioned the blue marker that you put in your window,
Blue Eagle,
for people to come, Blue Eagle, for people to support that, that's an incredible idea. Now, they didn't go for it back then, but that's how you can also change things, because being in LA, some of our biggest burger places are In-N-Out, and In-N-Out, compared, if you could go in the In-N-Out out here, they pay their employees good, right? But they get supported so much. And not just that, if you look at the demographics of the employees of In-N-Out in California and the demographics of McDonald's, you understand what I'm saying. So if you guys want to research that, you can research that. But when money start getting higher, the demographics start changing on who's being hired. And I think one thing, I think it shouldn't be just a target, because we got a $20 minimum wage out here. I'm seeing the effects of it. I'm seeing food go up.
We'll get into your opinions here in a second.
Oh yeah, let me fall back. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're fine. I know you're passionate, but your final decision, if you have one, of who won the debate, sir?
It's gonna be EK, just for the he edged it out. I'll say it's like 70-30 EK. He didn't edge out. 70-30 EK because of the whole arc. I just got judge as debate, so I'm gonna give it to EK.
I got you. There's no moral victory.
But I respect Mr. W. He's a
listen,
I like
as a judge, you can't be like, hey, you got to make a decision and stand on it. You standing on the fact
that it is.
Mr. EK won, yes?
As a whole, 70-30 EK won.
I don't care about the 70-30. EK won, yes?
EK won.
There's no
Damn
moral
it.
victories. I don't care.
Okay, man. EK won.
All right, say it with your chest. What are you, 6'5"?
And I'm 6'1", 235, man.
6'1", say it with all your 6'1" frame. That's it.
I used to be 290 about
Okay,
6
we'll
months
get
ago.
into that another time.
All right, let's go.
All right.
EK won.
Thank you. Miss 7th Ward Hardhead, how are you? 7th Ward Hardhead. This is her first time speaking. Let's give her an opportunity. All right, we'll go to Mr. Hit the microphone button, and that line will disappear.
Yeah, at the bottom, you see a microphone button.
Let me see if I can. I don't think I can. I can't turn it off. There's a microphone button at the bottom, and you hit it, and then the line leaves. You see the microphone button?
Have it down. Got it.
There you
Thank
go.
you so
There you
much.
go. Welcome. This is your debut on Mr.DenalXXL. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for participating. I chose you because I felt like you could be very fair and you will be an active listener. And I think that you were, from what I understand. Do you have something to say?
I do. So I'll start with the first question, which was about the economy, correct?
Correct.
So, I think EK's position was that there is nothing wrong. Equality leads to socialism. I think that was a direct quote for him. Equality leads to socialism. And what I like what W came back and said was that socialism was built on families and that it's all about helping your brethren out. I felt like his mentality as far as everybody, out there from ourselves and, I actually was offended him being a first generation immigrant. Like his father afforded him this lifestyle over here, and him saying that this was his country and that, and have so much ownership over it, right? But no, not really like strong roots in it because it's your first year here or your first generation here, where some Black Americans or some.
I was born here. I was born in Kansas City, Kansas.
Yeah, he's an American
first
citizen.
generation immigration. I said first.
No, it's not. I'm not an immigrant. I was born here.
I said first
My
generation.
mother's American, and my father was Nigerian.
Okay.
Sort of like Barack Obama, who was born here.
Right.
You don't consider him an immigrant.
You're being judged right now, so I don't think
Hold on. One second, Ms. Seth Ward Hardhead. Do you have an overwhelming thing of who won the debate?
Yeah, I think W won the debate.
Okay, Mr. W. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Mr. One Live Mike, what was the results of the polls that we put up?
Yeah, first poll, two polls. The first one came out about 76% EK. The second one came out to 90% EK.
90%. Give me a second, Mr. Ward Hardhead. 90%. And what is that? Can we calculate what those two polls came up to real quickly? Is that possible? How do we do that? Four.
Total number of people?
Yeah, how many people? Well, no, I'm saying between the two polls, what was the average? One was 90, one was 76. I would imagine that with the average that EK still won between the two polls, average out.
Yeah, 80% right, 77, 80% right.
All right. Okay. Let's go ahead around the room for a second. Ms. Kesha, you came in on I think in the middle of it. This was our first debate, one-on-one style with real-time fact-checking. How did you enjoy it, and what do you think, Ms. Tesha?
I highly enjoyed it. This was a really great structure for your room, especially for someone like you who's very, non-biased, and you create that environment where both sides could, speak their piece. And also you can always learn in your room. I don't have too much feedback besides that. I had a great time and I would just wait until you reset.
Okay. No, I mean, you can speak now if you like to. Would you like to speak on something, a topic that we spoke about, or?
Well, Like I said, I came in towards the intel, so I don't really have too much. I was just speaking a lot in the chat because I was going off of what the two young men what they were debating, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But I did serve in the U.S. Army. I am a post 9/11 veteran. I served 13 years, and I'm an educator. I teach social studies, and I worked in politics too. I helped get Joe Biden elected. So I have a diverse skill set. But what I do love the most about this is that what we're seeing in real time is what our forefathers and what like the English Revolution, every time, like what you're seeing right now is the beginning of a revolution. You're seeing the thinkers, people in the general environment, the general population coming together and they're thinking and they're putting their ideas together and they're sharing their perspectives. And I guarantee you within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be able to create something for America that's going to be so beautiful for those that's going to come after us. That's all I will say.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. What state are you in again?
I am in Florida, but I was born and raised in Wisconsin.
Okay, cool. You're a cheesehead. Okay, great. Let's give Duke an opportunity real quickly, Duke, before we end this segment. What you got?
Good evening, everybody. Haven't been on a debate team in college. This is a great concept, of course. Also, haven't served the United States Army. I'm a combat veteran that served in the Middle East and also was stationed one time in Israel. Some of the point of views was askew. I mean, it almost made me tear my hair out, which I barely have any left.
Right, you don't have much to go. Don't do that.
I don't have much to go. And if I hear the 1970 term carpet bomb one more time, I'm going to come through one of these phones, which is illegal around the which is illegal around the world and is not condoned, and no one, nor Israel or the IDF, who I served alongside of and trained with and have trained, is using. You know, this term surgical, like this is a training day film that the military never uses. The military never uses the word surgical because war is messy. It is. It's completely messy. You know. But hey, I like the concept of the debate. Like I said, I served at Texas Southern University. I was on the debate team, and I was great at it. So I'm looking forward to possibly, participating in this.
I agree, dude.
And
Sound like you're in the suburbs, but okay.
Oh yeah, I'm as the Moors call it, I'm traveling.
Got it.
But
right.
Go Israel.
Okay. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. W, you used the word surgical, right? And I think Mr. EK used carpet bombing. Is that correct, Mr. W?
Yes, I use the word surgical because it's a word that everybody understands. You see.
No, I never used carpet bombing. I didn't use carpet bombing.
Carpet bombing then.
May I finish?
I think it was
please?
W.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
No, I didn't use carpet bombing.
No, I said, my bad. I'm not the military guy. I said carpet bombing. That was me.
All right.
My bad.
Okay. Anyway, I use the term surgical because it's a term that everybody understands.
Okay.
And since I speak other languages, I figure I better use something people understand. Get an idea of what I'm talking about because that's what they hear in their society.
Sure. You want to get, as they say, you want to put it where the goats can get it. I'm a goat. I like it. Like love hate.
I want to say this. I also speak other languages. Matter of fact, I was on my platform and somebody German came along and I was speaking Deutsch.
Okay.
When he came along. When you're an expert at something, you got to speak in the terminology that you're the expert in. You cannot try to get everyone to understand what you're stating by using a different terminology. If you're military, you use military terms. If you're doctor, you use doctor terms. Surgical means to the people that you are able to find who you're looking for and take them out and them only. That's not the case in war. War is messy. This is why the military never, or military experts or anybody who's a contributor to the military on any news channel Never use the word surgical. It's impossible.
Okay,
Okay,
Mr.
let me clarify this again.
Yeah.
I said I adjusted to what I hear in the environment, you know, in the news media and so forth, so that it would be understood, you know, on this platform, because I'm not sure if anybody would understand anything else. And second of all, you know, I wouldn't be talking about certain terms anyway online. So Duke Vader, it's about communication. It is not about for me to show people my expertise in that field or whatever. Communication is first. I mean, I'm not trying to showcase myself. It's not about me showcasing myself, brother. It is about communicating. And I just want to make sure that we all want the same key. And that's why I use that term.
On a debate platform, you must bring the facts, and you must bring it in a way that you are known to be know what you're talking about. I am the listening community. A lot of veterans are the listening community. And when you say certain terms, of course you may get some college student straight out of college that may say, yeah, I understand what you're meaning, but to the veterans or anybody who's serving, you're sounding silly. So you can't just say, I'm going to placate to those who don't understand, because those of us who do understand, you're coming across as though you're not knowing what you're talking about. This is how you are in debates. Debates, you got to state exactly how it is, even if a person don't understand.
Well, Mr. Duke Vader,
Oh,
I mean, you got your rules, or you've done some debates or whatever. That's your business. But you know what? I'm up here just to bring a point of communication in certain aspects. I am not here, like I said, to showcase. And it is not about emotions for me. It is about something more important than that. And I wasn't just talking to veterans or anybody. I was under the impression anyway that, you know, since it's a normal term, that people would actually understand that term and it wouldn't be a big deal. I didn't expect for somebody to come along and take that one word, blow some air on it, from a little amber and turn it into a fire. I didn't expect that. But hey, if you don't like the word, I'll take it back.
You know that one word.
Give me a second, Mr. Double. You don't have to take back the word. You know, you were a military guy, veteran, and so was Mr. Duke Vader. What branch were you in, Mr. W?
U.S. Army.
U.S. Army. And what's your rank?
Well, I don't want to get into that. I work for NATO.
All right, no problem.
North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Vader, you were in what? You were in Army too?
Yes, United States Army Corps of Engineers, airborne engineer, as a matter of fact.
Okay. And Mr. W, Army, and he was working with NATO. Okay. All right. Listen.
NATO? You was working with NATO. You was.
I was combat arms advisor for NATO.
Now I understand your point of view. Yeah, I understand.
What does that mean, Mr. Vader? Mr. Vader?
That's inside military talk.
Oh,
yeah, we're going to leave it at that. NATO. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I know what he's talking about.
That sounds like some shade. Hey, Mr. Denali, that sounds like some shade right there.
I know. I thought so. I haven't been in the military. I didn't have the pleasure of serving, but that definitely did sound a little shady. I don't know. Okay, we'll leave it at that. I think based on this debate here, first one over here, Mr.DenalXXL, based on Mr. Charles, and then Miss Seventh Ward, and then the audience, I think it's clear that Mr. EK has won the first ever Mr.DenalXXL, bringing the debate here to TikTok. And Mr. EK is actually the winner.
Mr. Denali.
Well, congratulations, Mr. EK.
All right. So
thank you, Mr. W. You are a worthy and very respectful opponent. And again, just because we differ, I mean, again, I got the utmost respect for you and Duke Vader for protecting our freedom in this country. You guys put your lives on the line, and anybody else in the chat that's a veteran, thank you so much. I didn't have the pleasure of serving my country, and I really appreciate the sacrifice that you guys made.
Wow.
Well, I appreciate you, EK, and I appreciate you for the reason some of them you said. And I also appreciate you for the reason to, to endeavor into this opportunity. To be honest, neither one of us know the future, and, we won't know that until it gets here if we're around. However, I'm appreciative of Mr.Denali, everybody who participated, One Live Mike, anyone else, Dark Vader, hey, look, guys, for me, I'm at this stage in my life now where it's about life and people.
All right.
I've learned one thing in war, and I want to close with this. Out of all the wars in history we've had, and we still don't have peace, so something is wrong. And thank you.
Here's the thing that I know, okay? This word peace, it's a lovely statement, but it doesn't work around the world, okay? In the Middle East, peace is not what keeps everything in control. It's the four-letter word, F-E-A-R. That is what keeps people in line because they believe differently than what we believe. Understand that you would love for us to be in Alice in Wonderland around the world and think that peace can be attributed, but it's not. In the Middle East and in certain parts of the world, F-E-A-R is what keeps a lot of these nations from conflict. This is why the United States sided with Saddam Hussein. He was the one who controlled his country in F-E-A-R because they kept Iran at bay. That is the problem around the world right now in this Middle East. Without no
Let me clarify something. I did not mean that that's the way it's going to be. I said that's what history and everything the politicians have been telling us throughout the years, that they're striving towards peace. I know the reality, brother. Believe me, I know that very well. Okay, so it was not about that. It was not like Alice Wonderland around the world or whatever. Sure, that would be nice if that would be the case. But look, reality is reality, and that's where we are now.
What I was going to say was right before Duke starts speaking, that's the definition of healthy debate. When EK came up and gave W his flowers, and W did the same, and they show respect for each other, and Mrs. Denali and the whole panel. I don't think fear is what runs things over here. So I think we're gonna appreciate the debate. And I think we can end on that note with this segment, and then we could open it up for Duke to come back with the skepticism in the real world outside of the TikTok, outside of Mr. Denali show.
All right, great point. One line.
I don't think I was heard correctly. I don't think I was heard correctly. I didn't say that. I didn't say it.
Duke, I'm going to end the segment and then we're going to open it up. I want to thank Mr. EK and also Mr. W for a very spirited debate, a very respectful spirited debate. I felt the passion on both sides, but they were respectful of one another. And again, I'll continue to say it. That's what we're building over here, to have healthy debate. I'm trying to normalize healthy debate with passion, but we're being respectful. Okay, so that ends that. And we'll open it up. We're going to go about another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to shut it down and come back. All right?
Well, I got to say something. I just want to say something real quick. I appreciate that.
One second, Charles. Mr. EK, what is that, sir?
So I want to thank, I neglected to thank on One Live Mike, Charles and 7th Ward for participating as judges and fact checkers. Thank you so much.
Right, Lolo and Sugar Bridges, the whole team was a team effort.
Yeah.
One Live Mike was the one that was up here, but it was definitely a team effort of the producers and myself to make sure that we were bringing facts, actual factual information. And Mr. EK, my merchandise line is coming out very soon, next 2 weeks or so. And you got yourself a T-shirt. I'll DM you and ask you which one you want. There's probably about 40 ones. And you did win yourself a T-shirt. So there you go. All right, so at the end of that segment, I thought it was great, just like I thought it was, and we're going to tweak a little bit. We might have our second one between Mr. Duke and Mr. W. Mr. Duke, are you open to that?
Yeah, I'm sure. Sure, I'm open to it.
Mr. W, are you open to that?
Sure, I'm open to it.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. We got our second one. We had some other ones that we were looking at, but looks like we have a second one here. I'll get with each gentleman and get the date that works for them and the time. Mr. W is on PCT, right? Mr. W out in California or something?
Yes, Pacific Coast time.
Right, Pacific Coast time, and Duke is on he's on Central Standard CST. So there you go. So Duke, you wanted to say something real quickly about how you frame something? You want to reframe it or something?
I think I was not understood correctly, or
Okay.
maybe a phrase or so was said. I wasn't talking about the panel. Once again, I said that this concept of the debate was appetizing. But as I was talking about the Middle East, and I'm only talking about the Middle East, not the panel. In the Middle East, the only thing that's understood is FEAR. Okay. This is why Anthony Blinken is having such a hard time, which he'll never achieve what he's trying to achieve. But yeah.
You're the Reagan thing. Talk soft and carry a big stick. Duke.
Wait, say that again?
Didn't Reagan say talk soft and carry a big stick? Well, it was something with a big stick. Reagan.
Yeah, Reagan said a lot of things that was actually inflammatory to those who was listening to him, especially Iran. Iran was the main one that he was talking to, and they understood. That's why they released the hostages the day he was inaugurated.
All right, great. Charles, you want to say something? Then we'll go to Lee, and then go ahead, Charles.
I just want to say, thanks EK, thanks Mr. W for your debate. It was a great situation. This is my first debate on TikTok because I ain't been on here that long. I want to appreciate Mr. Denali for inviting me to judge, and I try to keep it even as possible. And don't hate on my 70%, man.
No.
What the panel say?
I mean, we don't need that. We try to make everybody feel good. Just say who won. That's it.
Yeah, man, but when you read the numbers, a lot of people was thinking the way I was thinking, so I like that, man.
I don't care.
Let me say something to Charlie. Hey, Charlie,
Mr.
I
W.
want to say
Yes,
something
sir.
to Charlie. Hey, Charlie, don't
Yes,
worry
sir.
about my emotions, brother. I mean, look, they've been in certain aspects, especially in this type of environment. They've been gone a long time ago.
Gotcha. But see, the thing is, I learn every day, man. I'm 51 years old. I learn every day. And that thing you brought up about the blue sticker or whatever, I'm going to look into that now because it's something I never knew about. And so even though it got fact checked and all the other stuff, man, I enjoy learning something new every day to go down a rabbit hole.
Great.
So thanks a lot, man.
All right. Miss Sevenford Hardhead. I'm going to let you back get you for a little bit. Hit the the mic, and then, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I appreciate you inviting me, and this is, a good forum to express ideas, and yeah, I think it was a productive conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Lee? 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 Lee. I think that's her. Yeah, she was up here the other day. Lee the kid. Lee the kid. Okay, she's not paying attention. Ricard. Ricard.
Hello, how you doing?
Doing great. What state are you in, sir?
Great platform. I really enjoyed it. Like our fraternity I'm a member of said, how good and how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together among unity.
Wow.
We can agree to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
It was beautiful. Being a logistic guy for over 25 years, I've traveled the world. I've been in some of those countries that W mentioned, and I can tell you this: there are a lot of differences in the world. When you've been born in America, you've been exposed to certain things, but when you leave America and go see other countries, it allows you to reflect back on how blessed we are to be born in this country. I just like to say thank you for those who served in our country, who's willing to put their lives on the line so we can remain free, so that it's a good cause. It takes a special person to be able to serve in the military. My family served in the military. I didn't, but I got a chance to travel the world. It's just very, very pleasant to hear this type of dialogue today. And it lets me know that it's not over. We can get the facts, vote on your facts, not with your emotions. And, you know, you have to also vote your best interest.
Absolutely. What state are you in, sir?
I'm in Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, Tennessee. That's where Miss Tanjeez, one of our producers, is from.
Yes.
Memphis, Tennessee. All right, fantastic. I'm going to give Lee another opportunity. Lee? Lee going once. Lee going twice. Lee the kid, and she is out of there. All right. Well, thank you for joining once again. Everybody who participated, thank you. The producers, everybody who helps make this show go. Mr. EK, Mr. W, absolutely 100%. I hate to leave people in the queue. Give me 1 second. Oh, he's not there. He left. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to end the show, this portion of the show, and I got to take care of something real quick, but I'll be back probably in another 2 hours, and then we'll have our regularly formatted show. But I thought this was important to have the debates to talk about what I like to talk about all the time, which is normalizing healthy debate, which is also respecting one another's experiences, even if they're not our own, because I think that's sorely missing in today's society. Everybody wants to scream and holler, and if you scream loud enough, then that makes you right, and it doesn't. You definitely can be loud and wrong. So, and we'll come back, and we'll probably play some of the speeches. I don't know who's on tap tonight, but I'm sure it's going to be a good one. And of course, tomorrow will be Walls, and then on Thursday will be VP Harris. So we'll be back around 6:30, 7 o'clock, and we'll catch some of those speeches and things like that with our regularly formatted show. All right. So until then,
Mr. Denali, I think Obama and both the Obamas are speaking tonight. If I'm not
we'll definitely
mistaken.
be there because you know what I feel about Barack Obama and his beautiful wife Michelle Obama.
Yeah. I think they're both speaking.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna get the time. We're gonna carry that live. I was so upset that I wasn't on the air when Barack Obama was the president, because I think that he did a fantastic job when he came in. A lot of people don't remember what he was facing as a first-time president and all those. I never forget when the economy was going off the cliff. I talk about it all the time. When Hank Paulson went into George Bush's office and I need $750 billion, otherwise the economy's going off the cliff. And John McCain, veteran, great guy, said, hey, we need to suspend the campaigns. And Barack Obama said, no, we're not. We can walk and chew bubblegum. As a president, you got to be able to handle different things all at the same time, which I thought was, I was like, wow, what a response. I don't agree with everything he did, because who agrees with anybody 100%? But he doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, because I think people need to go back in time and remember what was going on with the economy at that time, with 750,000 jobs being lost each and every month. So I might do that one day, just have a throwback show and go back. We're going to do that for September 11th. September 11th is what we're going to have a special show for that. So yeah, that's what I want to say. Lee, you back? What you got before we get out of here?
I don't even know what you guys are talking about at this point, but yeah, y'all have a good one.
You too. You take care. And everybody, I'll see you guys a little later on tonight. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.